so imagine this. You're in prison in Ethiopia, wrongly convicted, and it seems like you've tried every legal option. But then a glimmer of hope, and it comes from the most unexpected place.
Okay.
The nationality of your co-defendants.
Wow.
It sounds crazy, right? Well, that's what happened to this guy, Ato Tadesse Kassa.
Yeah.
And we're going deep into his case today, using a summary written by legal expert Abram Yohannes.
This case is so fascinating. You know, it really highlights just how important jurisdiction is in any legal proceeding.
Right.
It's like the rule book that says which court can hear which types of cases. And without the proper jurisdiction, any decision a court makes, you know, it's basically like they're playing the wrong game.
Yeah, so in Kassa's case, he was initially imprisoned by a series of regional courts in Ethiopia.
Right.
And then he appealed all the way up to the highest court in the country, the Federal Supreme Court's cassation bench, which is kind of like the Supreme Court here in the U.S.
Right.
And that's when things took a pretty dramatic turn.
Yeah. The cassation bench, they decided to completely overturn the previous rulings.
Wow.
And not because they thought Kassa was innocent,
Right.
but because those regional courts never had the authority to hear the case at all.
So even if he was guilty, they couldn't convict him.
Exactly.
That's a big deal.
It is a big deal. And to understand why we have to look at Ethiopian law,
Okay.
at the time, the Federal Courts Proclamation No. 125/1988 clearly stated that any case involving foreign nationals had to be heard by the federal high court.
Okay, so it's like a special court just for cases with international people involved.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
So that's where the nationality of Kassa's co-defendants becomes important.
Exactly. 2 of the people involved in the case with Kassa were foreign nationals. And this one detail completely changed which court had jurisdiction over the case.
So even though Kassa himself was Ethiopian because there were these 2 foreign nationals involved,
Yeah.
the whole case had to be tried in a different court system.
Yep, you got it.
It's like they changed the whole game just because of who was on the teams.
That's a great analogy.
So that explains why the cassation bench reversed the earlier decisions. But how do they prove that the co-defendants were actually foreign nationals?
Well, the key evidence was company registration documents and minutes from meetings, all verified by the Ethiopian government agency that authenticates documents.
Wow.
And these documents clearly showed that 2 of the co-defendants were foreign nationals.
So some paperwork basically ended up being what set Kassa free.
That's right.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Did the other side try to argue against this?
They did. They argued that citizenship needs formal proof, like a passport or something. But the court decided that the company documents were strong enough evidence.
Okay.
Especially since the respondent, that's what they call the opposing party in legal terms. They didn't directly challenge the fact that the co-defendants were foreign nationals.
So they kind of missed their chance to dispute that point.
Yeah, it seems like it...
I can't believe that simple documents were so important.
Yeah.
It really shows how every detail matters in a legal case, even things that seem like minor technicalities.
Absolutely. And the cassation bench's focus on this detail, it shows how important procedural correctness is in the law.
Right.
Every step in a legal process has to be done the right way by the book. And when it comes to jurisdiction, that's especially crucial.
Yeah.
If a court doesn't have the authority to hear a case, any decision they make can be challenged and reversed.
Just like in this case.
Exactly like we saw here.
Wow. This really shows that these aren't just like abstract legal ideas.
Yeah.
They have real consequences for people.
Yeah.
Like in Kassa's case, it meant years in prison when he shouldn't have been there.
Right.
It makes you wonder how many other cases are out there like this where someone's freedom is at stake just because of some little jurisdictional detail that got overlooked.
It's a disturbing thought for sure. And it just shows how important it is to have a good legal system. You know, one that protects individual rights and makes sure everything is fair.
Yeah, and thankfully Kassa's case is a good example of how even when things seem really bad, if you really understand the law and have a good legal strategy, you can make a difference.
Absolutely.
It's like finding that one loose thread that unravels the whole sweater.
I like that.
His lawyers, they deserve a lot of credit for figuring out this jurisdictional issue and using it to get him out of prison.
They really do. And speaking of the law,
Yeah.
it's important to note that Ethiopian law has been updated since Kassa's case.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they actually addressed this problem to try to prevent similar situations from happening again.
So what did they change?
Well, the new Federal Courts Proclamation No. 1234/2021,
Okay.
it makes it clear that any criminal case with a foreign national involved and where the sentence could be more than 5 years, that automatically goes to the federal high court.
So they basically made sure that those regional courts wouldn't overstep their boundaries again.
Exactly. They closed that loophole.
It's good to know that they're learning from their mistakes and trying to make things fairer.
It really is. And it also shows how important legal experts are. People like Abraham Johannes who take the time to really study and analyze cases like this.
That's true. Without them, these issues might never even be noticed.
Exactly. They help us understand how the legal system works, all the complexities,
Right, like the differences between the regional and federal courts.
Uh-huh.
The role of the cassation bench as the final decision maker.
Right.
And how important it is to follow the proper procedures.
It's fascinating stuff. And it reminds us that even though legal systems are different all over the world, the basic challenges are the same.
Yeah.
Making sure the courts have the right authority, ensuring fair processes, and making sure everyone has access to justice.
Yeah, Kassa's case might have been in Ethiopia, but it really highlights something that's true everywhere.
Absolutely.
The law can be used to protect people, but it can also be used to harm them.
It's a double-edged sword.
And that's why it's so important to have good lawyers who know how to use the law responsibly.
To protect their clients' rights and to make sure the system is fair for everyone.
Well said. So we've really gotten into the details of Kassa's case.
We have.
And the surprising importance of jurisdiction.
Yeah.
And we've even seen how Ethiopian law has changed because of it.
Uh-huh.
But I think what I'm taking away from this, most of all,
What's that?
Is how much even small legal details can really matter.
Absolutely. They can have huge consequences.
It's a reminder that you can't underestimate the importance of carefully analyzing the law and having a good legal strategy.
And it's a reminder that we shouldn't take our legal rights for granted.
This case has really been eye-opening.
It really has. We've learned so much about jurisdiction and how even tiny details can be super important.
And about the good and the bad of the legal system.
Yeah.
It leaves us with a lot to think about. I mean, like, how often do these jurisdictional mistakes happen? How many people are in prison right now just because of some technicality that nobody noticed or that they misinterpreted?
Yeah, that's a really important question. This case, it really shows that we're not just talking about theories here, These legal concepts, they have a real impact on people's lives.
Yeah, and it makes you think about the bigger picture, too.
Right.
What can we do to stop these mistakes from happening in the future? Are there ways to change the Ethiopian legal system so that it's better at protecting people's rights?
Yeah.
Like, imagine if Kassas hadn't been able to appeal his case all the way to the highest court. He might still be in prison.
It's true. You're raising some good points.
Yeah.
This case could actually lead to some positive changes.
Right.
Maybe they'll review the procedures they have now.
Yeah.
Or maybe they'll do more training for judges and lawyers so they really understand these jurisdictional issues.
Yeah, maybe even some public awareness campaigns would help.
That's a good idea. We can't just assume that the legal system always works perfectly. We need to keep asking questions, looking at the procedures, and pushing for improvements to make sure everything is fair and just.
Exactly. So basically what we've learned today is that knowledge about the law is power.
Absolutely.
The more we understand about our rights, about how the legal system works, about the things that can go wrong, the better we'll be able to handle these complicated situations and make sure that justice wins in the end.
I completely agree.
So to everyone listening, remember this. Don't underestimate those little details. Stay curious about the legal system and always fight for fairness and justice. Because as we've seen with Ato Tadesse Kassa, even one tiny technicality can change everything.
That's the truth.